Ryan Hanna launched Sworkit Health as a side project back in 2012. What began as a D2C fitness app is now a fully managed digital wellness solution serving employers, schools, and health plans. The mission? To empower a healthier, happier world. Hi, everyone. I'm David Williams, president of strategy consulting firm Health Business Group and host of the HealthBiz podcast, a weekly show where I interview top healthcare leaders about their lives and careers. If you like this show, please subscribe and leave a review. Ryan, welcome to the HealthBiz podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about your background and your upbringing. What was your childhood like? Any childhood influences that have stuck with you?
Yeah, happy to jump in. So I was born in Kansas and then moved to Germany shortly afterwards. Spent a few years there before settling into North Carolina for most of my childhood. Even though I was young, I look back at, that time being abroad in Germany, and I think it showed some of the importance of, stepping out of our comfort zone and, experiencing something new. The more we do this, the easier it becomes to do later on in life or at any time where we're feeling a bit challenged. So that was, a big part of moving around and, doing that. Obviously, the reason behind that, my dad, spent his life, serving as an officer in the U.S. Army. My mom was a nurse for over 40 years, and so directly and indirectly through that, this taught me, sort of the importance of service to others and making a positive impact on your community. And the world in general. So still to this day, again, they're still helping out and, staying active within the community, doing that. Uh, I believe, again, as we look at Sworkit and sort of, where this has come and evolved, there is for us this overarching goal and vision to create a healthier, happier world. So doing that through a multi-generational impact on health, seeing how we can, help people of all ages and abilities. We're even now sort of spreading that out across, supporting hospital systems and how we can make positive impacts on the communities there, taking on social determinants of health. So a big part of what we do, and kind of growing up through that and seeing it through them and being inspired by that. You never realize it at the time, but kind of looking back,
Yeah.
there was an influence there.
So pay attention when you're a kid, I think is the message. And what did you do education wise once it was in your hands?
Yeah, so after high school, I decided to go to the University of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I'd actually taken on a 4-year Army scholarship for that. So I think even at the time there, the decision to join the Army through that mechanism was even a surprise to my parents. We hadn't really talked about it that much. Obviously, it was a big part of what we do, and
Yeah.
I think there was something in there. I think sort of being in entrepreneurship and again kind of thinking about it, it was a choice to do something different. I really didn't know anybody else who was doing it, and it was an invitation to try to do something more adventurous and put myself into situations that might not otherwise get to experience. So
That's great. And
um,
what was your
you know
role in the Army? What was your role in the Army?
uh, yeah, so I was a officer in the U.S. Army in the Signal Corps. So worked in a couple different organizations. One was a combat camera organization, another training support battalion. So definitely, really value that time in the Army, and know that that carries on with me. Working together in an organization with a common mission and values is incredibly rewarding, and there's so much diversity in the military, and being able to work with so many different people from different walks of life. You learn about okay, even your own privilege and biases, and making sure that you're aware of them, and then you quickly respect the benefits of working in a diverse group once you've been in that situation.
One of the things also I hear from people who've been in the military is that the opportunity to have a leadership role at an early age and real
Mm.
serious
Yep.
leadership also makes a difference. And as hard as it is to start a business, it's not life and death.
Yeah, it's the perfect place to sort of get into that gradually. I mean, everyone you kind of start off and no one really knows exactly what they're doing, and you're kind of taken through training, you're taken through experiences, you're put into situations where you really get to challenge that and see how you can thrive. And another big part of the military too that I think sort of a lesser talked about uh, benefit is also even having somebody take accountability for your physical and mental fitness. I mean, again, you can't really hide being unhealthy if you're being woken up 3, 4 days a week to go out for PT at 6 a.m. And I don't know, it's helped me make that more of a part of my life. I think growing up, and we all have different experiences with sort of exercise and fitness as we go through adolescence and high school. And sometimes those aren't great experiences. You might not really feel like you fit in with gym class, or the weight room is some sort of distant place for the football players that no one else goes. So I don't know. Especially after kind of having been in the military, and then when it was time to kind of leave university and go on to do this on my own, it was all of a sudden, oh, okay, well, now I actually have to do this, on my own without the accountability. Nobody's showing
Yeah.
me exactly what to do, and that sort of started to lead into how Sworkit sort of to come about, and how that personal need really even to think about, re-envision what fitness and movement was for myself. Again, you sort of instantly think, and many people do, it's going to a gym, it's, walking in there and feeling really intimidated by all the equipment and not having the confidence to do the right thing. And, it looks like a torture chamber. I mean, if you've never been
Yeah.
in one, the first time you go, it's got that big sort of daunting experience. And, I think once you sort of step back and you start to realize, you know, actually maybe it's a bit simpler than that. Maybe we can just think about a little bit more movement, or we can standardize some body weight exercises that you can do at home. That was, a big, life changing moment.
Got it. Yeah. I guess I had never thought about it this way, but probably the equipment suppliers for the gyms and the torture chambers, I mean, it's probably this different two different divisions of the same company.
There you
So
go.
before
There
you
you
did
go.
Sworkit, I saw a couple other things on your background, Sparta and CapTech. What were those?
Yeah, so some of my first jobs right out of college, again, kind of putting to use that signal core training. I became an IT network administrator in the defense sector just outside of DC. So again, it helped having a clearance to kind of jump into a role like that. And again, as you sort of transfer there into nowadays, thinking about how this fits into healthcare and the privacy security, it certainly has come to help out quite a lot. While I was, at Sparta, which was, we went through two different acquisitions, which is obviously an interesting thing. There was a time that I just happened to take on a New Year's resolution to teach myself to code, and happened to get very lucky that at the time, Sworkit was actually one of the first ideas that I came up with to sort of solidify that knowledge and put it into practice. So started doing that on the side and building it out, and that eventually moved on to the next my next job role was with a company called CapTech, and this is my first sort of actual web developer job that gave me, that confidence that this thing that I had built, that by this time is being used by millions of people throughout the world, has sort of become my brand new resume, and is kind of the my existence, and helped me kind of go in and do that with others, and working on lots of larger projects.
So it sounds like Sworkit started around that time, and I'm wondering, you
Mm.
you sort of answered my question I had about what need did you see when you're talking about
Yeah.
being overwhelmed by the gym, but the importance of physical and mental fitness as well to anything you're doing. So how
Mm.
did it work out as kind of a side project, and then transitioning it into a full time kind of all consuming business venture?
Yeah, so again, actually, early days, yeah, it was again one of the biggest things that again, I talk to other entrepreneurs about, is if you can focus on, solving even a need for yourself and something that is probably going to resonate with others, that really helps you feel very passionate about it, and you're willing to put in those extra hours on the weekend and evenings if that's what it's going to take to get things started. You can take all those risks at an early stage without a lot of kind of external risk and other employees involved. So it started off. I got it out there into the world after about 5 or 6 months of sort of teaching and learning and implementing, and I was able to get pretty lucky at the time. There, this back in 2012. There wasn't a lot of other fitness apps at the time, and it met a lot of the needs that we need around breaking down these barriers for fitness. So I don't have enough time. I don't have any equipment. I don't know what to do. I don't like gyms, anything like that. So that story resonated well with folks. So I got it out. I started spreading the word across different blogs, and it seemed to resonate. People were willing to write about it, and that's how it's really started to begin. And started to get, kind of went from 10 downloads to 10,000 downloads to 1,000, sorry, to 1 million downloads after that. And through that time, just meeting members, there was a really memorable story. There was a flight attendant, Lisa, who reached out to share her story about Sworkit, and it was about, she had, again, had that similar story of being intimidated by the gym, and her friends had been inviting her to go to yoga and felt like she was going to embarrass herself. So she started using Sworkit to really build that confidence up, use Sworkit at home, build up some experience, some endurance, and then was thrilled when she, was finally able to say yes and go along to that class. And through this time and through getting so many of these stories, I had met what eventually became our business partners, Ben Young and Greg Coleman. They had founded a company called Nexercise. They met at Wharton Business School in 2010, and we had met and we started talking and just kind of sharing stories about each other's businesses. They had another gamified fitness app out in the world, and they eventually at one point, I think Ben was just, kind of on a whim. They just had a board meeting and he was at the airport, and he texted me and he asked, would you ever consider selling Sworkit? And immediately I was just thinking, absolutely not. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? I'm just, this has just started getting started. I'm not sure where it's going. So I think for me, it was sort of all of a sudden a validation and somebody saying that there's more to this. Somebody saying that there is a real business case that this can grow, and bringing some of their experience in, we were able to eventually agree to join forces. And I came and stayed on, and that's where Sworkit really, I believe, through their vision of what it could be, really started to grow into the business that it is now, and how we developed that over time and have been able to kind of maintain that progress.
I can see a natural fit between Sworkit and Exercise. They both seem like companies that you took a sort of a word or a name that people are familiar with and threw another letter in front of it. So, work
That's
it
how
with
this
an S in
works.
front and
Yeah.
exercise with an N in front. But how did you come up with the name Sworkit? What does that really mean,
Yeah,
if
so
anything?
early days of it. Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, early days it was a sort of take on circuit workouts. So for me, again, circuit workouts are a way to, scientifically proven workouts, exercises, put them together in the right way. But you could choose the amount of time you want it to do. And I mean, the amount of times you kind of go through that circuit. It's about flexibility. It's about fitting into your life. Eventually, as it progressed, we shifted that focus over to simply work it. Again, core to our mission as a company and the way we develop our product, we want to simplify things as much as possible. We want to break down those barriers, get more people involved. People who don't think that they are somebody who exercises. All of a sudden, we simplify things. Hey, maybe 5 minute stretch. All of a sudden, now they are somebody who exercises. That's even progressed now. We've even changed it up to, like many people do, added the word health at the end. But this is really a signal. So now we are Sworkit Health, and it's that signal that we are also very focused on the outcomes, and looking how this plays out within the healthcare industry, and how we can help people kind of go from wherever they are to a healthier state.
I'm always interested in the differentiation from other sorts of players that are out there. And I think partly what I'm hearing from you is about you had something that's clearly proven on the consumer side, you serving a need, as you said,
Yeah.
maybe first for yourself and then others. You gave the, Lisa example and other people like that. And now you've got something that comes from the consumer side and then is going to healthcare and employers, which is different than I think the typical product that's out there. How do you think
Yeah.
about what your differentiation is?
Yeah, I think that there's quite a few. One of them is, our focus on, innovative approach to personalized wellness. So, we're pioneering, the ability to tailor fitness and mindfulness nutrition to each individual. So going beyond the one size fits all type models, and integrating science and inclusivity to empower, people of every age, every experience level to take control of their health. I think, that importance that there's these solutions that are out there oftentimes, sort of just video based workouts that you can sort of, hope you get the right one for you. We take it further where you can actually personalize and customize your workouts. We can recommend specific workouts based on injuries you have. So we will actually take that in account and make sure we're only recommending workouts that are going to be, safe and effective. We also have a big focus on global availability. So Workit's available in 14 languages, with many more coming in 2024. And so having an equitable benefit for large companies who, again, have workforces across the world, or maybe in communities where the individuals aren't native English speakers, being able to make sure that everyone has a great benefit that's accessible to them. And then through that too, making sure we can help beginners. So beyond just sort of lifestyle and driving healthy outcomes for beginners who may feel lost and sort of intimidated by all the different options out there.
What is the value proposition for an employer? And I'm wondering in particular, is this something that you bring in to reinforce the culture and wellness and
Mhm.
cohesion, or is it something that's trying to present, let's say, a hard return on investment, for example, on like orthopedic
Mhm.
costs or something like that?
Yeah, well, focused a bit more on the former there. So again, we are a consumer grade benefit that employees will value. You tie that into bringing in the enterprise features, the social interactions, challenges that we've offer. I think once you let people know that hey, this is available for you. We as a company are prioritizing your fitness. One of our values, wellness is a priority. We want to help as many other organizations see that as possible. If we can help people build up their own confidence, outside of work. That will obviously, bleed into what they're doing there. If we can get people working out together and thinking about, motivating each other, there's all of a sudden, a new level of cohesion. So, yeah.
Um, People sometimes work out with a physical trainer or they have a health coach. But on the other hand, in this, not in the same way, but gym can be intimidating for people, but it can also
Yep.
be intimidating, not to mention expensive, to work with a trainer or a health coach. What is the role for, can you actually digitize those functions? And does that help both on the cost side and the accessibility, approachability side? How do you think about that?
Yeah, we often look at that model of digitizing, you think about a normal gym experience, right? So, maybe, what you're sort of thinking about when you walk into a gym. You hope that maybe somebody's going to be there to welcome you, right? They'll help you understand. You want to understand what your goals are, what you're sort of planning to do. They'll give you a simple plan that you can follow day to day, provide clear instruction, encourage them, introduce them to others in the community, and help them find accountability, help schedule the next visit. These are so we always do look at that model. We think it's important to kind of mirror a bit of what the best case scenario would be in real life, and then putting into that the way that we can digitize that and do that at scale. We do love making those sort of real world connections into how we can make that more digital.
I talked to quite a few entrepreneurs whose companies serve employers and health plans, sometimes providers. It's
Mhm.
fairly rare to have schools up in that list. And I'm wondering, where did the idea
Yeah.
of serving schools come from?
Yeah. So since 2015, we'd added kids content to the app, so actual children doing the demonstrations, which is much more easy for a child to follow along when it's not some
Yeah.
6 foot tall trainer, and again they're seeing the sort of sometimes awkwardness of movements, and they can relate to that. So that was a big part of what we do, and I think in 2018 we formally launched our Sworkit Youth Initiative with the vision to create a multi generational impact on health. We again, truthfully, as a team, we were having more parents on the team. We were thinking about how do we pass some of this on to our children and help them grow up with more confidence as youth. This has kind of led even to now. So we've worked with now over 16,000 schools worldwide to have access to Sworkit. This means we've even added in our own. We've worked with some of the top PE teachers in the U.S. and have been able to create specific curriculum where we can encourage maybe a different approach, maybe stepping away from the sort of model of sports and those sort of more traditional games to play, and also look at how we can encourage youth and teenagers to build their own sort of goals and plans and follow that plan and make it measurable and fit it into their life in a very specific way. So we during the pandemic again there a lot of usage among schools to kind of take their normal PE and find a way to do that virtually. And we had a teacher reach out, and one of his students, his mothers, had shared that her daughter obviously well, part of the story was that she hadn't always had a great experience with PE in person, and again kind of cited low confidence for not really taking part in that. But as they were kind of going through and using Sworkit at home, started to build up that confidence, was doing it 4 days a week. The mother and daughter were even doing it together, and something about being able to focus and find herself outside of a normal PE environment helped her get that confidence and be motivated to do this.
It sounds like that's a pandemic related story. I wanted to ask, what was the
Yeah.
experience like during the pandemic for you? Certainly changed a lot of digital health companies and brought them to the forefront.
Yeah, so at the time we were predominantly focused direct to consumer, and so yeah, as soon as the pandemic hit, we were on the uh, again the fortunate side of a very terrible situation where there was a large spike in usage. I think again you saw sort of exponential growth of downloads and people using the app and getting their exercise in. There was then you could just watch the data. I mean, truthfully, it started to come down. I mean, I think as we started to realize, hey, maybe this isn't a 12-week, get fit at home sort of mentality, and this is going to go on for a longer time. The sort of the usage started to is still above sort of normal levels, but did start to level out. But for us as a business, it created a brand new opportunity that we hadn't really been putting a lot of effort into, in which large organizations, kind of global pharmaceutical distribution companies, came to us and were looking for a way to distribute, um, you know, an app like Sworkit to their employees to help them stay healthy, help them adapt to this, situation they have of, having to be at home all the time. So we had already, actually, luckily, because of the school systems we actually had a system in place to create organizations and onboard, this, amount of employees and do that in a very secure way. So it helped us to pivot our business into more of a B2B focus where, now that, our main focus is on helping organizations come on board with Sworkit and working with them with their client success team and helping them, grow this and get as and high engagement as possible. So growth since then has been great. We've also, I think through the pandemic, you saw a normalization of digital solutions. As employers are looking for where they're going to prioritize their budgets.
So the COVID-19 pandemic is largely in the rearview mirror at this point. And I'm wondering where you think things will go from here and maybe how, any use cases might evolve for what you're doing.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is again beyond just again having employee wellness again is obviously going to continue, and that's going to be where a lot of our priorities are. But we're also striving to work with larger kind of healthcare systems, health plans to see where we can actually make an impact on the community and public health. So now it's starting to trickle down into the payers and the hospital systems who are willing to work with companies like Sworkit, so working with digital health companies to improve health in their communities with digital health solutions which are more accessible. They're preventative in nature. We can work with the schools, health plans, hospitals to embolden their commitment to public health and driving forward a benefit for their community that's going to kind of level the playing field for more people. So I think it's the larger organizations are also going to be taking this on as a commitment that they're willing to make.
Great. So, Ryan, my last question for you is about whether there's any books that you've read recently, or at any point that you would recommend to the
Yeah.
audience, and of course, if there's anything you would recommend that we avoid.
See, oh, I haven't thought about the latter of that.
Yeah,
Professionally, again, anyone who's sort of ever interested in kind of the building of a product, which again can be a big part of building a business. I've always loved Inspired by Marty Kagan. It is sort of the um, you know a a great introduction to a product mindset of is the thing that we're building going to be something that people are going to want? Are they going to be willing to pay for it? Are they going to want to continue to reuse it over and over again? uh, and on the sort of personal side of thing, I actually recently reread Siddhartha, which again I remember reading in childhood, and reiterates I think it's very important as an entrepreneur, this power of patience and resilience, and how we find our own journeys throughout life. You know Teaches of the river that will always find its way to the sea. So I always see these, we come up against obstacles and challenges, and continuing forward resiliently is very important. And I think we should take a lot of that on.
great. Well, Ryan Hanna, CEO and co-founder of Sworkit Health, thank you for joining me today on the HealthBiz podcast.
Thank you, David.
You've been listening to the HealthBiz podcast with me, David Williams, president of Health Business Group. I conduct in-depth interviews with leaders in healthcare business and policy. If you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite service. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe on your second and third favorite services as well. There's more good stuff to come, and you won't want to miss an episode. If your organization is seeking strategy consulting services in healthcare, check out our website, healthbusinessgroup.com.